Yeah.
Yes, we're live now.
We're live now. Hi,
guys.
everybody. So really special newscast today. Big news yesterday, both on the Taiwanese front and on the American front. But we're here to focus on the Taiwan front, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, right after I left the office,
Yes.
I saw something on the news that I was like, oh my god, I gotta tell Eric, our nightly newscaster, about this.
There is no way your response was that measured. It was more like,
Yeah, pretty much,
You know,
pretty
something
much.
like that.
Did you get this?
I was like, Eric, I'm freaking out, man. Anyway,
Okay.
it's no secret today that Taiwan has lost another ally,
Right.
Yeah.
the African country Burkina Faso. And this comes on the heels of the Dominican Republic leaving us, which was on April 30th.
Less than a month ago.
Less than a month ago,
Less than a
about
month
3
ago.
weeks ago. So when that happened, we did a little bit of a wrap
Yes.
about, or not just a wrap, but we kind of gave an overview about Dominican-Taiwanese relations, and we talked about how this is going to affect people here who are from the Dominican Republic, and how this affects Taiwanese who are in the Dominican Republic. Let's talk about Burkina Faso really quickly. Burkina Faso is a small African country, and it's only one of two African. That's my dad. Hi, Dad. And it's one of two African allies
Yes.
that we had. Now
Yeah.
we
So
only
now
have
we only
one
have
left.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have Burkina Faso, and we had Kingdom of Swaziland, which is now known as
Eswatini.
the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Hope I got that right.
Yeah. And the thing is, Burkina Faso has always kind of played it on the sidelines, from my understanding. You don't really hear about them really often. They're kind of like a fair weather ally. I don't want to say that like that, but you didn't really hear about Burkina Faso. Now, this comes. There were a lot of red flags to begin with.
This is true.
Last month, President Tsai went to Eswatini, and they wanted to meet up with the Burkinabe president. I think that's what you call them.
Yeah, Burkinabe.
Yes.
And the Burkinabe president said he refused. He refused. And when they refused, that's when the foreign ministry was like, okay, something's up here. But despite that, even before, in February of last year, 2017, Burkina Faso said, we just rejected $50 billion from Beijing, and we have no intentions to change allegiances.
Okay, a quick pause.
Yeah.
Hello to Lai Qing.
Yeah, Qinghua, that's my dad.
Oh, hi.
That was my dad.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Mr. Lai.
Pei Yu Page. Hi, Dylan Shu. Good day, guys. Hi, Dylan. And Joey VC is watching.
Hi, Doris.
Lisa, hello, Doris. And, okay, so let's go over this really quickly. The announcement came yesterday. Was there any mention of Beijing on
No,
Burkina
there
Faso?
was not. The Burkina Faso Foreign Ministry issued a statement saying that they were doing this for the good of Burkina Faso and its people, so that so that they could prosper in the international concert. And that was their words.
Yeah.
But the statement did not explicitly mention China.
Okay.
So the quote from their foreign minister was, "Today, changes in the world, the current socio-economic challenges facing our country and our region calls on us to reconsider our position." Socio-economic challenges.
So unlike this, the two before, the two countries that broke relations with Taiwan before, which is Dominican Republic and Panama, they explicitly said that
It's a one China policy.
It's a one China policy,
Right.
and they were switching recognition from Taipei to Beijing.
Right.
Burkina Faso has not said so, but we all kind of assume that's what's going on.
Have they established relations with Beijing yet at
No.
all?
I do not believe so.
Okay, so this is just kind of like we kind of know where this is coming from, but not really. They haven't explicitly said it.
Right.
And another thing to notice to note is the WHA, the World Health Assembly, is going on right now.
Right.
in
Burkina
Geneva,
Faso
Switzerland.
was one of the countries who did not speak up for us.
Right. How many of our allies did speak up for us?
15 of our, at the time, 19 allies
Okay.
did speak up in favor of Taiwan having meaningful participation in the WHA. Burkina Faso was one of those that did not.
Do we know who did not speak up for
I
us?
do not remember the others.
Okay.
Just to quickly cut it, Gao Haowei says, "Where is Joey?"
He's taking a day off because he's going to be at our bike day tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he's not in the office today. Erica is doing his show. Don't worry, he's going to be He's going to be live at the event tomorrow, and of course he's going to be back in the studio next week.
So see you guys at Bike Day tomorrow. Really quick plug.
And Doris Kyle says, thank you for sharing your views with us. This is an important topic.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah, and this is something that, people have responded well to before. So if you guys like what we do, if you guys have any suggestions
let us
for
know,
any news
give us
we
those
talk
likes,
about,
all that stuff.
Yeah, just let us know. Okay, so we have the concerns, and Thai visited Eswatini. That's fine. They didn't speak up first of the WHA. But did you guys know? Here's my next point. Did you guys know this isn't the first time that we've broken relations with Burkina Faso?
Yeah. And it's not the only country to go back and forth a little bit, but yeah.
It's not.
But, I mean, that does indicate a certain lack of stability overall.
It's not like what was it, Dominican Republic? There was like 70 years, 70 consecutive
70 years is a long time.
And they cut it off, right? And then I think Paraguay's going on 100. Isn't it, with Taiwan? I think so. But so the first time Burkina Faso and Taiwan established relations was in 1961.
Holy smokes.
1961, that was what? Let's do some quick math. 57 years ago.
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever you say.
57 years ago. Then in 1973, they switched to Beijing.
So they've already flip-flopped once.
Yeah. And then in 1994, they went to Taiwan again.
Right.
But that was at the height of the dollar diplomacy thing between Taiwan and China, looking for allies. So we just might have offered them a better offer at that point.
So are you saying at this point, because we've lost 3 in a row, there's no way we're able to compete with?
No, it's not about 3 in a row. It's just that China's economy is much better now than it was in the 90s.
Okay.
And they have more money to throw around for things like this, even if they are not explicitly saying they've been paid off.
Okay.
Right, and on that note, China is Africa's largest trading partner. They have investments in mining, construction, banking. A lot of they have joint projects with a lot of African countries, building infrastructure, trains, transportation. So it's kind of like they're getting entwined together.
China's working very hard to secure African support.
Okay. Do we have someone saying hi on there?
Yeah, Matt Huang says hi.
Hi. Hey, Matt. Okay, so let us know what you guys think about what's going on here. We'll talk about that too. But let's throw this,
I was going to take it to the next possible entity on the list. Have we talked about that yet? And the next, a lot of people are speculating that if this is a domino effect and this trend is going to continue, who's going to be next? And there have been some reports that have named the Vatican, which is Taiwan's only diplomatic ally in Europe. And why would they switch? A lot of people have said that they're speaking with Beijing and they're trying to come up with an accord over how bishops are appointed, which is odd because China is a communist country and doesn't allow a religion
is illegal,
technically. So anyway, so that is a rumor that's going around.
That is the major point of contention between Beijing and the Vatican, is who gets to appoint the bishops who oversee the Catholics living in China. And we've been hearing over the past several months that they're pretty close to finding some sort of agreement on this topic.
So if this agreement comes through,
we don't know. We don't know if that's a precondition for Beijing and Vatican to figure things out. Will Taiwan be like one of the conditions that the Vatican has to let us go?
So here's my question. Is Burkina Faso a casualty of dollar diplomacy, as the president has said herself? Is there any substantiative proof?
I think it's all a matter of how you phrase things and what you call things and how you define things, because you could say, well, we didn't directly give them any money, we offered them aid, or we gave them preferential loans, or we're working together on a project to improve infrastructure. Now technically that's not giving them money, but
on that note, now that Burkina Faso has ended ties with us, some DPP lawmakers have called for some military aid that we're sending to Burkina Faso to be withdrawn. So it hasn't arrived there yet. It's currently on a ship to Africa. But they're saying that because we have not handed this stuff over to Burkina Faso, we should just take it back.
I think that's par for the course, right?
I think that
should be right.
Gao Haowei says, so the same diplomatic relations would be getting worse in the future due to the pressure of China.
That's definitely what it looks like right now. Because think about it this way. 2016, we lost one ally, Sao Tome and Principe. 2017, we lost Panama. Last month, we lost the Dominican Republic. And now we're losing Burkina Faso. This is a domino. Like, this is getting faster and faster. This is kind of
course,
exponential.
Beijing has been forcing us out of the WHA for 2 years straight.
Yeah.
Right.
They wouldn't even let our journalists cover the meeting, which is not cool.
And this is also, that's just in the political sphere and in international organizations, but there's also pressure coming from businesses, for international businesses, or
the airlines recently.
The airlines, the 30 airlines were specifically named and shamed by China for listing Taiwan and some other territories and countries as countries. And then I think recently there was a Japanese retailer that sells lifestyle goods, and they were specifically named because the packaging on some of the coat hangers that they imported listed Taiwan as a country. Very specific.
A lot of airliners, right? I think.
Right, a lot of airlines have
including some U.S. airlines, and then the U.S.
Muji.
government. Yo, I was trying not to name it, yo!
Sorry.
Not naming names here, but we already did.
Sorry. It just came to me. Anyway, we have a question from Doris Cal. Could you share with us the typical or general way between two countries' diplomatic relationship should be, meaning the healthy way between two developed countries?
Talk to our protocol guy here.
So in this case, let's go.
You didn't do your thing that you do before. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So in this case, it's very special between Taiwan and China. It's because both Taiwan and China are claiming. I mean, both Taiwan and mainland, I guess in this case, are claiming to be China. In this case, and that's where the one China policy comes into play, because that's where we get the name Republic of China from.
Right. Because we technically believe that we own all of China.
Republic of China not just talks about Taiwan as the island, but they believe that the government of the entire mainland and Taiwan is under the ROC.
Right.
PROC is the opposite. They say, okay, we're the mainland, but we also own Taiwan.
Right.
So think about it this way. Today, let's say I'm a country. I'm the country of Leslie, and this is the country of Eric.
Oh, jeez.
Okay? And Eric and me to have formal relations, I have to say, you recognize me as the Republic of Leslie, I recognize you as the Republic of Eric.
We can work together.
Handshake, yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is what happens. Nancy comes along and says, you know what? No, I'm the Republic of Eric.
I don't want to be the Republic of Eric.
You want to be the Republic of Nancy, right?
Yeah, I do.
But that's a whole other issue.
Okay.
That's a whole other issue.
Okay.
But I'm saying this is how it stands right now for us to have diplomatic relations.
Right.
By saying the Republic of Leslie recognizes this as the Republic of Eric, I cannot say you are the Republic of Eric.
Because this is the true
Because there is only one. But if I said today, okay, no, now you're the Republic of Eric, I can't recognize you as the Republic of Eric anymore.
Yeah.
But you are, what are you?
Are
you an annex of this Republic of Eric? Or are you a separate entity? That's what this is. Metaphor at its finest, guys.
Finest is a questionable word, and I think it would be helpful for Doris if we name some other countries around the world that have normal, healthy diplomatic relations, recognizing each other as equals.
Yeah, U.S. and Canada.
U.S. and Canada and multiple other countries in the world. Basically, they officially recognize each other. You know, there's always going to be trade and exchange, cultural exchange, educational exchange going on between.
And always, like, if there's a problem, right?
If
there's
resolved through dialogue.
Yeah, it's a resolved through dialogue. That means me and Nancy have, or China, Canada and the U.S. have a method. They say, hey, before we go into any fights, we're going to try and talk it out, and we have official channels.
Right. I speak to Leslie's diplomat in my country. Leslie speaks to my diplomat in his country.
Yeah.
They report back to their respective countries, and then they
work together to find a solution.
And there's usually some kind of hotline between the leaders of the countries, and they could potentially talk to each other directly as well.
Is this Eric's first time on the show? Well,
yes, it is.
It's kind of the first time I've dragged you onto the screen. mostly because you were the reporter on site the minute this dropped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was here at the office. It was close to the end of my shift, and then I saw on the TV news that Burkina Faso has cut off relations. It's like, breaking news, must write this immediately.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so Nancy,
Yeah.
let's go back to the point you were making before we went on this huge.
Thanks, Doris.
Aside from the Vatican, are there any other countries that have said that they're not?
I don't think I don't think there are countries that openly say but I know there are other countries that have been listed by Taiwan by MOFA as a yellow light. They have a system like green, yellow, and red for potential for dangers in diplomatic relations.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think they've said exactly which one, but they've said that one or two are a little shaky, and that was before this whole Burkina Faso thing.
I don't think any country ever gets to red though.
No, because
by that point they're already gone.
Yeah. Okay.
The green light, yellow light, red light system I told you guys about.
Yeah.
Yes, he has worked at MOFA before.
Gaho always says, "What can MOFA do?" I heard from someone Leslie worked in MOFA. Yeah. I did work in MOFA. This is this is what our MOFA can do. It's just, it's just communicate and make sure. But the thing is, it's so the allure of what China can do
MOFA
and the
can
reach.
Try and be a good partner to the ones we currently have. However, if China is engaged in so-called dollar diplomacy, they just have more resources than we do, and there's not much we can do about it.
This is true.
So it becomes a question, at least on the table, above the table, it becomes a question of how much our diplomatic partners value different types of government, like democracy versus communism, or human rights versus other types. Exactly. So, and then it also depends on how much they value the years of friendship. Although we haven't seen that be as valued as much in the past.
The interesting thing is our MOFA doesn't only work with countries that we have relations with, right? We have 18 countries, but of course there are Taiwanese offices in America.
Right.
And one of my friends, he works at the Washington D.C. branch. What he's basically doing is being a cultural ambassador. Mm-hmm. So what he's trying to do is saying he's over there trying to convince people to come to Taiwan, and just like
raising Taiwan's image.
Yeah, because he's saying the first step to good diplomacy is making sure people know
who you are
and what you guys do.
Make sure that they like us.
Yeah, and my job at MOFA was I was taking these people in. So he's like, hey, I got people coming in from so-and-so, and then they came in and they're just like, Leslie, we need you to show them a good time, make sure, and then I had to do it on the minister's behalf.
Right.
So I was just like, okay, so the minister is gonna want to meet these people. I have to make sure they have a nice lunch, they have a nice dinner,
make sure everything goes smoothly.
They have a nice concert or whatever.
Right. Gary Zhang says, from your perspectives, what can our government do?
Eric?
I believe that in general, what we're doing now is the right move. We are working to help our allied countries improve their infrastructure, improve their education, improve their scientific training. Things that will have long-term lasting benefits for the countries without being straight up monetary donations to them. I think that is actually a very good way for us to be going about it. It's just that if China really wants to take an allied country away from us, there's not much we cannot compete on China's level in that realm.
Yeah, I think in terms of economic power, it's a difficult task. But in terms of other areas where we mentioned respect for human rights and being in line with global standards for medicine, for the law, that kind of thing is something that Taiwan I think has a unique perspective on in Asia. So that is something we should keep working on. Even though we don't attend the World Health Assembly, I think working with international medical associations, those things will be helpful for us in the future. I think
the government could put out more programs like social programs, whereas we're not explicitly trying to gain these things, but if like Joey, he's got a lot of friends who come from diplomatic allied countries who are here on a scholarship.
Right.
One of the people he had on his show, Block Party, she's from I think St. Lucia, or St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's a country out in the Caribbean who's our ally.
Right.
And I think this is this kind of like social exchange where people are just like, oh, we know the people of Taiwan, we know how beautiful Taiwan is, and then that in their mind that kind of incepts the people's image or their impressions of Taiwan. And I think that's more important than anything.
Right.
Before we get to these leaders, we need to get to the people.
Right.
And to be fair, even for our non-allies, for example, right now the government is doing their new southbound policy, which is trying to, it's mainly economic, but it's also cultural. We're trying to build ties with the people of Southeast Asian countries.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to, convince their governments to form official diplomatic relations with us, but we are making closer ties through these other formats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not necessarily about you have to recognize us in order to get these benefits.
So like there's no explicit like advantage or disadvantage of having ally status,
mm-hmm.
right? Think about it this way: Taiwan is not allies with Canada, Nancy, but you're Canadian. Somehow you ended up there.
Yes.
You identify as Canadian and Taiwanese.
And Taiwanese. I can freely travel in either country, and people from Taiwan can travel to Canada without a visa, I believe.
It's never been a problem for you. But like I said, this is at a certain point, this all becomes a formality. This all becomes like kind of symbolic.
I think it depends. I think it depends on the situation. There are some, there are some specific cases where being a country means you have a seat at the table or not.
Okay. Yeah.
And I would like to point out that on the travel thing, despite Taiwan only having 18 diplomatic allies now, the Taiwanese passport is one of the most powerful in the world.
No, that's
right?
a good point.
Even though we have so few official diplomatic allies, having a Taiwanese passport means that you can get into something like 111 different countries without a visa or with a landing visa.
And that goes back to my point, right? It's about this reputation that people, the impression that people have of Taiwanese people, right? Because these countries, they're just like, oh, that's Taiwan. They have one of the lowest crime rates in the world.
Right,
these people are going to
We're going to follow the rules there. We're not going to do something stupid when we visit your country. So yes, you are free to enter our country, and we are free to enter yours.
So Doris Cow asks, have you guys heard about the Taiwanese student who was forced to register nationality into China rather than Taiwan? What could our government do, or what's your opinion? Register. So
where did this happen? In China itself?
Probably not. Probably in another country, and they were forced to list themselves as a Taiwan.
It's possible. Again, with the Chinese pressure on Taiwan internationally now. Again, there's not terribly much we can do. Every time this happens, MOFA will, of course, lodge a protest because this is not how relations should be conducted, and it's China pressuring other countries against Taiwan.
Dylan Shu says, I just wondered why both sides between Taiwan and China cannot build such a thing as a hotline for communicating in peace or at least reasonable conversations. Both sides said that they opened up for conversation, but obviously
didn't they try and do something like that before with the Ma administration?
It's partially because the Tsai administration does not recognize the 92 consensus, which is a precondition basically that Beijing has for this level of communication.
And that precondition says both sides agree there is one China, and then they have their own interpretation of what that one China means.
So there was kind of a hotline, but you know what? I think what it is, it's just like I said, it's back to formality, right?
Yeah, true.
If Beijing picks up this hotline when Taiwan calls,
that means like we are equals, and they do not believe that.
And it's just like the hotline, not just like, but similar to the hotline between North Korea and South Korea. South Korea used to call North Korea every day, right? And then North Korea never picks up.
But they picked up New Year's Day of 2018.
And that action was like boom, huge news, right?
Can you imagine just being my favorite thing is imagining that South Korean guy just like, well, here comes another phone call, and North Korea's like, hello? It's like, what's he gonna do?
It's not the machine.
Happy New Year! Okay, let's move on and let's wrap this up. Guys, thank you so much for your questions. This is awesome. Joseph Wu, the current foreign minister, offered to step down. He offered to resign after
ICRT interviewed, our Philip Broussard interviewed Joseph Wu just a few days ago. Leslie was just there.
2 weeks ago. He was
2 weeks ago.
He was very nice. He was very nice.
So he did offer to resign after this happened because as foreign minister, he is ultimately responsible for all our diplomatic efforts.
But his resignation it's a verbal resignation, it hasn't been officially...
it has been denied. President Tsai Ing-wen has said that he's actually been doing a good job in his post, and she's going to keep him on. And again, this is not something that he could have really prevented anyway.
Yeah. So when this is a bit of a personal thing, Bo. So when asked about the last African ally that Taiwan has, the Kingdom of Eswatini, also known as the Kingdom of Swaziland, Joseph Wu said he has the utmost confidence that they're going to stay, and I kind of believe that only because when we interviewed him with Philip Broussard for Hola Taiwan, like you should have seen the minister talk about the Kingdom of Eswatini. He's just like, yeah, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been to. So
President Tsai just went there
President Tsai just went there, yeah.
About a month ago. That was the 50th anniversary of Swaziland's founding, 50th birthday of the king, 50th anniversary of Taiwan's diplomatic ties with Eswatini.
Right,
and
right.
So we have a long history with them.
The Eswatini king is coming next month because his son is studying here.
Oh,
so if that's not like secure ties, then what is?
Yeah. Another thing that we should talk about to like give people some faith before they leave because we always talk about them breaking, but Palau, the president of Palau, Tommy Remigasso, he said that like they will not fold to pressure. Like he has specifically said they will not fold to pressure.
He led a delegation to Taiwan a week ago.
Yeah.
A week ago, they met with President Taiwan. You know, they issued a joint statement, like Leslie said. So.
I think his term is up though. So like almost. I don't know.
No,
because
2021,
2022. Because that was the week I was covering news for Eric, and I read the story, and then you guys just had to end it on this like sad note. It's just like Tommy Remigasso, Taiwan good, but he might not be there in a few years. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So guys, final thoughts. Wait, let's review really quickly. We started with 22. Okay.
When President Tsai took power.
And then I'm going to review the 4 that we lost most recently.
Right.
Before that, the one before Sao Tome was 2013. That was Gambia. That was also an African country. Yeah, the Gambia. I'm sorry. And then when President Tsai, because they think this is a pivotal moment where these foreign relations are shifting.
Right.
We lost Sao Tome in December of 2016, Panama, June of 2017, Dominican Republic, April 30th, Burkina Faso, May 24th of this year.
Okay.
All right, Taiwan, we're down to 18 allies now. Latin American countries, let's review, because we might, I don't know, we don't talk about this soon, but we did this last time when we talked about the Dominican Republic. Latin America, Belize, El Salvador, Haiti, Nicaragua, St. Christopher, St. Vincent, Guatemala, Paraguay, Honduras, St. Lucia. Okay, so the bulk of our allies are in Latin America. 1 in Africa, Kingdom of Eswatini.
Right.
1 in Europe, Vatican.
Holy See.
And the rest are in the Pacific Islands. Kiribati, Nauru, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, Marshall Islands, and Palau. By the way, didn't Solomon Islands just ask us for aid for their for one of their a new project?
I believe so. I think we have agreed to give them a low-interest loan, but I do not know the amount offhand.
Okay. All right.
The terms of the deal.
Anyway, guys, looks like we're going to have to wrap this up. Nancy's got to do the 4. You got about 25 minutes to get ready for that.
Cakewalk.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. All your questions, all your input was great. We encourage you to do this more from now on. If you guys have any questions, me and Nancy go on the news every Tuesday and Thursday after the 4.
Yeah.
Well, we live the 4 and then go to the 4.
All
right? And Eric, you're on at the 6. We'll try and get you on a little more.
Okay, no problem.
Hopefully with some better news, some happier news. Not with one where we're breaking allies. All right? Thank you, everybody, once again. And have a great Friday. And if you're at Bike Day tomorrow, I'll see you there.
Yay.
Eric's not going, Nancy's not going, but I'll see you there. Peace, everybody.